World War II, the deadliest in history, demonstrated the clear need for a forum that could be a center for harmonizing the actions of nations. The founders recognized that the three pillars of the United Nations, peace and security, development and human rights, are equally important, interrelated and interdependent. One cannot advance without the other, and that is what the UN has been striving for over the past 75 years within the support of you, the member states. We should not overlook our achievements. Membership has increased from 51 to 193 today, reflecting in significant part countries gaining their cherished independence and committing to the United Nations and its charter as sovereign states. Quiet diplomacy and the development of arms control regimes prevented the decades-long Cold War from turning into a nuclear conflict. Peacekeeping missions have kept the peace and protected civilians. UN special political missions have helped diffuse crisis and promote lasting solutions to conflict. Electoral assistance has reinforced public trust in democracy, including in crucial transition periods. The Universal Declaration of Human Rights, adopted in 1948, set out fundamental human rights to be universally protected for the first time. The UN has worked tirelessly to promote and protect human rights and fundamental freedoms for all, including the equal rights of women and men. In the past 75 years, the UN has also shaped the norms for international development. In 2000, we adopted the Millennium Development Goals to combat poverty, hunger, disease, illiteracy, environmental degradation, and discrimination against women. Now, as we enter the decade of action, we have recognized that implementation of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, which is universal, provides a coherent blueprint for a better world. This has become even more pressing in the context of the threats posed by climate change, disruptions caused by technological developments, and the current pandemic. Excellencies, multilateralism is not an option, but a necessity, as we build back better and greener for a more equal, more resilient, and more sustainable world. The United Nations must be at the center of our efforts. Since the UN was established, the world has changed in unimaginable ways. An upgraded UN must respond to these challenges and changes to stay relevant and effective. It must be inclusive and consult widely with all relevant stakeholders, including regional and sub-regional organizations, non-governmental organizations, civil society, the private sector, academia, and parliamentarians to ensure an effective response to our common challenges. We must support the United Nations to evolve into a more agile, effective, and accountable organization, so it is fit for purpose and can deliver the future we want. Excellencies, as you have made clear in the declaration, there is no other global organization with the legitimacy, convening power, and normative impact as the United Nations. No other global organization gives hope to many people for a better world. As we enter the 75th session, it is now time to act. I am taking the call for renewed global action seriously. The United Nations is only as strong as its members' commitment to its ideals and to each other. Before concluding my remarks, I would like to make a strong call on the Member States. It is now time to mobilize our resources, strengthen your efforts, and show unprecedented political will and leadership to ensure the future we want and the United Nations we need. The time for now is action. Thank you. I now invite the Secretary General of the United Nations, His Excellency Antonio Guterres, to make a statement.
Mr. President, Excellencies, the ideals of the United Nations, peace, justice, equality, and dignity are beacons to a better world. But the organization we celebrate today emerged only after immense suffering. It took 2 world wars, millions of deaths, and the horrors of the Holocaust for world leaders to commit to international cooperation and the rule of law. That commitment produced results. A 3rd World War, which so many had feared, has been avoided. Never in modern history have we gone so many years without a military confrontation between the major powers. This is a great achievement of which member states can be proud and which we must all strive to preserve. Down the decades, there have been other historic accomplishments, including peace treaties and peacekeeping, decolonization, human rights standards and the mechanisms to uphold them, the triumph over apartheid, life-saving humanitarian aid for millions of victims of conflict and disaster, the eradication of diseases, the steady reduction of hunger, the progressive development of international law, landmark pacts to protect the environment and our planet. And most recently, unanimous support for the Sustainable Development Goals and the Paris Agreement on climate change provided an inspiring vision for the 21st century. Yet, there is still so much to be done. Of the 850 delegates to the San Francisco conference, just 8 were women. 25 years since the Beijing Platform for Action, gender inequality remains the greatest single challenge to human rights around the world. Climate calamity looms. Biodiversity is collapsing. Poverty is again rising. Hatred is spreading. Geopolitical tensions are escalating, and nuclear weapons remain on hair-trigger alert. Transformative technologies have opened up new opportunities, but also exposed new threats. And the COVID-19 pandemic has laid bare the world's fragilities. We can only address them together. Today we have a surplus of multilateral challenges and a deficit of multilateral solutions. I welcome the General Assembly's 75th anniversary declaration and commitment to reinvigorate multilateralism. You have invited me to assess how to advance our common agenda, and I will report back with analysis and recommendations. And this will be an important and inclusive process of profound reflection. Already we know that we need more and more effective multilateralism with vision, ambition and impact. National sovereignty, a pillar of the United Nations, goes hand in hand with enhanced international cooperation based on common values and shared responsibilities in pursuit of progress for all. No one wants a world government, but we must work together to improve world governance. In an interconnected world, we need a networked multilateralism in which the United Nations family, international financial institutions, regional organizations, trading blocs and others work together more closely and more effectively. And we also need, as the President said, an inclusive multilateralism, drawing on civil society, cities, businesses, local authorities, and more on young people. Mesdames et Messieurs, le Secrétariat a célébré cet anniversaire en menant une consultation à l'échelle planétaire. Plus d'1 million de personnes à travers le monde, et notamment un grand nombre de jeunes, ont fait entendre leur voix. Les participants ont fait part de leurs craintes et de leurs espoirs pour l'avenir. Ils estiment que la coopération internationale est indispensable pour faire face aux réalités de notre époque. Ils ont relevé que la pandémie du Covid-19 rendait cette solidarité plus urgente encore. Et ils ont souligné que le monde avait besoin de systèmes de santé et de services de base universels. Les gens craignent la crise climatique, la pauvreté, les inégalités, la corruption et la discrimination systémique.
Systemic discrimination on the basis of skin color or gender. They see the UN as an instrument to build a better world, and they are counting on us to be able to rise to the occasion to face the challenges of today. This responsibility falls first and foremost to member states. These are the member states who founded the United Nations. It is their duty to invest themselves fully in it, to feed into the organization and to provide it with the resources that it needs to have a true impact. We owe it to we, the peoples. We owe it to the peacekeepers, to the diplomats, to humanitarian personnel, and to all those who sacrificed their lives to progress our common values. I pay tribute to all members of staff, past and present, for their devotion to bring to life the ideals of the UN. The founders of our organization set down to work while conflict was raging. Today, it falls to us to chart a path away from danger. To cite the terms of our charter, it falls to us, the United Nations, to combine our efforts to accomplish these aims. I thank you.
I thank the Secretary General for his statement. I now invite the Secretary, in accordance with the General Assembly Resolution 73-299, I now give the floor to His Excellency Abu Abari, Permanent Representative of the Niger to the United Nations and President of the Security Council for the month of September.
Monsieur le Président de l'Assemblée générale, Monsieur le Secrétaire général, Mesdames et Messieurs,
Gentlemen,
permettez-moi tout
allow
d'abord de
me
vous
at the
adresser au
outset
nom
to
des
extend to
membres
you, on behalf of the membership of the Security Council and on my own behalf, my warmest congratulations on your brilliant election to the presidency of the 75th session of the General Assembly. We have no doubt that your lengthy wealth of experience as a diplomat will enable you to successfully conduct the work of the session. I wish to pay a vibrant tribute to your predecessor, His Excellency, Mr. Tijani Mohamed Bandeh, for the work that he has achieved in a context made particularly difficult by the COVID-19 pandemic. I should also like to extend and express our satisfaction for the constant ongoing contact that he has maintained between the General Assembly and the Security Council. Mr. President, the theme selected as a theme of the debate for the 75th General Assembly, the future we want, the United Nations, we need, reaffirming our commitment to multilateralism during this 75th General Assembly that you'll preside over is of great importance. This is very relevant and timely as it refers us to the ideals and objectives that serve as the foundation of our organization. Examination of this theme will give us an opportunity to reaffirm our priorities priorities in the face of the plethora of challenges and crises faced by the world, as well as to propose appropriate responses to address them. As you are also aware, the commemoration of the 75th anniversary of our organization arrives at a moment when the international community continues to suffer the horrors of the novel coronavirus pandemic. The disastrous social, economic, and political consequences of this pandemic have exacerbated many challenges throughout the world and have created new challenges, be they humanitarian, environmental, challenges or challenges related to conflict and security. These challenges include terrorism, transnational organized crime, cybercrime, the illicit arms trade, human trafficking, and drug trafficking, to mention but a few. Many also justifiably wonder whether the international system that emerged from the San Francisco conference is effective today in promoting the economic and social development of all peoples and maintaining international peace and security in accordance with the Charter of the United Nations. Global governance, which takes into account the shifting global realities and challenges, is important. There is no global organization that has a legitimate the convening power and the normative impact of the United Nations, the crucible par excellence of multilateralism, and the center of discussions on international cooperation, economic and social development, and international peace and security. In this regard, I welcome the discussion in the Security Council on September 24th on post-COVID-19 global governance. I look forward to this debate. The high-level debate shall afford us an opportunity to strengthen cooperation and solidarity in accordance with Chapter 1 of the United Nations Charter, which deals with the principles on which multilateralism is based. By way of conclusion, Mr. President, I wish to reiterate the congratulations of the members of the Security Council, to reiterate our readiness to maintain and bolster the dynamic of cooperation with the General Assembly, and I wish to reiterate our wishes for full success in the discharge of your vital mission. I thank you for your kind attention.
I thank the President of the Security Council for his statement. In accordance with the General Assembly Resolution 73-299, I now give the floor to His Excellency Munir Akram, Permanent Representative of Pakistan to the United Nations and President of the Economic and Social Council.
Mr. President of the General Assembly, Your Excellency Mr. Volkan Bozkır, distinguished Secretary General of the United Nations, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. It is a great honor and privilege for me to address this high-level commemorative meeting as the President of the UN Economic and Social Council. 75 years ago, the United Nations was established to save succeeding generations from the scourge of war, but also to promote better standards of life in larger freedoms. The fundamental principles of the Charter have served as the foundations of the post-1945 order. Against all odds, the world's nations have avoided another global conflict. The last 75 years have also been a golden age in economic growth and productivity, the reductions in poverty and maternal and child mortality, the rise in life expectancy, and scientific and technological advances. Yet, as the Secretary General has observed, inequality is the hallmark of our times. The COVID-19 pandemic has starkly revealed the reality of inequality among and within nations. It is the poorest who have suffered most from the pandemic. The richer countries have mobilized $11 trillion, while the developing countries are struggling to find even a small fraction of the resources they need. In fact, ladies and gentlemen, we are confronted with a triple challenge: recovering from COVID, realizing the SDGs, and avoiding the looming climate catastrophe. The response to these challenges must be collective. No one will be safe until everyone is safe from the virus. A vaccine against COVID-19, once developed, must be available to everyone, everywhere, at affordable prices, without discrimination. Our response to the triple crises.
All right, so we come out of the proceedings there where the leaders, world leaders that is, celebrating 75 years of the United Nations, obviously reflecting on some strides that have been made, looking into some challenges that they had to overcome, and the way forward as to what happens from now going forward. We'll certainly be dipping in and out of those proceedings here on SA Today. Do stay with us here on the channel.
Workers, older people, and others at the highest risk. We have no guarantee that any single vaccine now in development will work. The more candidates we test, the higher the chance we will have a safe and efficacious vaccine. Almost 200 vaccines for COVID-19 are currently in clinical and preclinical testing. The history of vaccine development tells us that some will fail and some will succeed. The COVAX facility enables governments to spread the risk of vaccine development and ensure their populations can have early access to effective vaccines. Even more importantly, the COVAX facility is the mechanism that will enable a globally coordinated rollout for the greatest possible impact. The COVAX facility will help to bring the pandemic under control, save lives, accelerate the economic recovery, and ensure that the race for vaccines